Hello, everyone. My name is Michael Gibson. I hope you're well. I am the CEO of Norm Therapy Incorporated. I'm also the creator of Norm Therapy. It's a revolutionary therapy that we use with abuse care victims and survivors around the world. We currently have trained Norm therapists in just about on every continent, but in just about every major center on the planet. And we're growing. We have a very comprehensive training program. It's about a year long, but you are awarded the title of Norm Therapist when you complete the course. It's called a Norm Therapy Intake Specialist course. It's actually taught by some of the most seasoned norm therapists on the planet and the cadre of Norm Therapy Inc., of course. We work through a nonprofit, and a nonprofit is Abuse Refuge Org, as we call it. In the old days it was orgs, and now it's inks because the states have taken over that ink policy. So Abuse Refuge Inc., if you like to look up the organization on the IRS public charities area, and you'll find that we're there listed with all of our proper filings as a nonprofit. The actual for-profit company undergirds and supports the nonprofit in providing to a select qualified group of individuals free services. And we'll talk more about that as time ensues. But today, I have a gentleman by the name of Dillon Tecson, who was, as a matter of fact, our very first male graduate of the Norm Therapy Intake Specialist course, and he's a norm therapist. Amazing human being, great personality, smart, very smart. He's pursuing his master's in counseling as we speak now in a traditional sense of therapy. And he's also looking at opportunities to help to incorporate norm therapy in what he's doing for the rest of his life in his counseling field, or bring him over to norm therapy full time if we can afford it, which I think we can in the future. A little bit about Dillon. We had what they call a BFOQ, bona fide occupational qualification. It's a status with the IRS that says we can exclude certain members or certain sects from our platform, until which time we are prepared to have them on board. In this particular case, we allowed no men the first 3 years or so to be a part of the nonprofit. In order to establish ourselves, put in place, of course, our educational pieces and courses, have women pretty much ran the whole organization with the exception of me. And that bona fide, what they call a BFOQ, bona fide occupational qualification with the IRS, said that we can exclude men. We first started including them back in, I think it was October of 2023. Yay, it was a good thing. Dillon was the very first male that actually went through the course and graduated. As a matter of fact, he didn't just graduate from the course, he graduated the honor graduate. So it's going to be fun talking with him and find out more about what he's been doing with the organization in his personal life and how it's changed him, and some of the issues he wants to cover as well. He is a strong advocate for male abuse, men abuse. He's an advocate for helping men find coping mechanisms, not maladaptive, but good coping mechanisms, because oftentimes men suffer from maladaptive coping mechanisms. So we're going to look more into that. And we'll talk about trauma. So hope this is an interesting conversation for you. And without any further ado, I'd like to invite Dillon Tecson into the organization or into our show right now. He's an NTIS level 3. Yay, come on in, Dillon. Good to see you, my friend. How are you today?
I'm good, Michael. Thanks for having me.
Well, it was my
That was a good intro.
Well, what can I say? I'm long-winded, but I want to get as much in about you as possible because in a way, you're like believe it or not, I'm just going to use a loosely coined term since the 90s. You're like an OG because you're the first male, and there have been men to come after you in our other courses, but you're the first male, and to boot, you're the honor graduate. How did that feel? Tell me about that experience.
Yeah, when I was first joining the program and stuff like that, I guess that was like a huge surprise to me and just shock. And I kind of instantly felt like I was kind of welcomed in, in a different way. And it just automatically felt like I had like a connection to the company and to you and stuff like that, just being the first one. And I kind of just wanted to show that I can do it too. And that it was really like comforting as well, just to know that. And, it gave me like an extra sense of motivation to, you know, go through the program, finish, and also do my best to just to represent also just being the first male. So it was a really eye-opening
It's a big deal, though.
experience.
It's a big deal.
Yeah,
In the future, 10 years from now, when there are hundreds of
yeah.
thousands of norm therapists around the world, you're going to still be number one. At least these pioneer groups that we have now, excuse me, and you've met some of them, the other males,
Hmm.
these are pretty comprehensive people on their own. And, just, I want to say smart, but more than smart, they have a level of experiential knowledge. Even if they don't have the years doing it, they live vicariously and intellectually through others. And I think those are some of the characteristics we look for in our norm therapist candidates. You have this innate ability that people just like you. They want to talk to you. They enjoy your presence. You have a good heart and it exudes you along with your business acumen and your psychological, I would say, prowess of trying to figure people out and make them feel comfortable with being human around you. That's something I think you bring as an innate and very inherent quality to you. Everybody in the company pretty much thinks so, especially me. So I was so proud to have selected you as the first male candidate, number one. You didn't surprise me at all. I knew you were going to be at the top of the game. Now, without any further accolade, about how great you are, tell me, before you came to norm therapy, before you even decided that you would do this, what brought you to us? What happened that brought you to norm therapy?
Yeah, so I was already had my bachelor's in psychology for like for a while, and then I actually graduated during 2021, and school was cut short, and I just remember getting like the text message from the school, and they were just like, school is going to end early, and we're not really going to have like a graduation or anything like that due to COVID and everything like that. So I remember my school getting cut short and just like going home that day and then finishing the rest of school like pretty much online. And then when I graduated with the psych degree, I kind of didn't really know, what to do during that time because everything was just so, weird during COVID and stuff. And I didn't even know if I really wanted to even pursue psychology as far as to where I am now because it was just kind of like, I have music on the side, which we'll get into as well. But I um, at least wanted to have a degree and, have something that I, you know, at least liked in terms of school. And so I didn't even have any plans of like immediately like pursuing psych after school. It's kind of just like, okay, I'll get the degree and then I'll
Mhm.
work for a while. And then, hopefully it'll all come together at the time in terms of like finding more passion within psychology. And then basically started working for about, a couple of years. I worked at like elementary schools. I was like a kind of like counselor after school program and stuff. And I worked with kids for like 4 or 5 years, and even before COVID, and got my other job. And in the middle of this time, in terms of now and last year, when I finally joined Norm Therapy, it was me kind of regaining my passion for psychology and wanting to be like, hey, like I want to find more opportunities. I know I can't really do much right now with the bachelor's. I want to, find some other work I can do related to it. And then I found norm therapy, and then I'm kind of all aligned. I was like, okay, I can, start learning more new things and stuff like that, as well as I'm trying to find my passion more. And then that's kind of how it all came together and how I found it.
That's wonderful. A lot of people fall into norm therapy like, wait, what is norm therapy? What do you mean norm? Just for the sake of the conversation, norm therapy isn't traditional therapy. It's for abuse care victims, as I mentioned before. And we have many people in our organization who are already psychotherapists, psychology majors, psychologists. We have medical doctors. We have all kinds of people from every walk of life who've gone through the norm therapy course, and they find us to be kind of a missing link, so to speak. Can you help me with that understanding, Dylan?
Yeah, I think definitely I don't really know too many other companies or whatever that just specialize like primarily in abuse care. And I think that's what makes us so powerful is that like it's very specialized. And even if you look at the website, you can see everything in its specialization of like all the different types of forms of abuse. And I just don't think I've ever seen anything like it until, up until I joined the company. And I think that's what makes it so different in terms of like, okay, you can look at the website and see exactly what um, how you relate to the things on the website and all the different forms of abuse. And then you can know for sure that, okay, like whatever you're dealing with, they can help me with this specifically. And I think that's what makes norm therapy different in
Thank
terms
you,
of,
thank you. I like the way
yeah,
you just said that. Uh,
yeah.
I think it was a long time needed. I remember when I was a kid, somebody experienced abuse in any way other than sexual abuse or other than drug or alcohol abuse. Anything they experienced was not really categorized in a way where the police or the medical professionals or the community or the cultures could even understand. I remember I remember some pretty bad situations growing up when dealing with abuse because I came from a couple of situations where abuse was rampant. And so tell us, on between a woman and a man when they're being abused, which one is less likely to be reported?
The men for sure.
Why is that?
Yeah. I think it's because I think just some, there's this stigma for males that, we have to be like able to, withstand anything or take anything. And, if we talk about it, or we, talk about stuff like that on that emotional level, it kind of makes us seem weak, like, oh, we can't handle it, or, you know, um,
For
not
reporting it
all
make us
males.
weak.
Yeah, not all males are like that, but like a lot of fathers teach their sons, like you have to be strong and you have to be able to like withstand pain, and you kind of have to like stoically like, just take it. And I think when it comes to abuse, something like that, um, I mean it's hard for women to even report that stuff, and for males too, it's like, there's that extra stigma in terms of like they don't want to lose that sense of like power or, strength by when in reality that's not the case, but that's just kind of the whole mindset behind it. So I think that's why.
Like men
Um,
don't cry and men don't go
yeah,
whining. So
yeah,
apparently society has taught men not to report because it puts them in the category of weakness, you're saying. I agree with you. In all of my research over the years, I found that to be very true and accurate. Um, why men in your specialty? Because I know you're a psychology major, you're looking for your master's program and other areas to work towards that, plus as a norm therapist. Why men? Why did you decide to champion men?
I mean, obviously I'm a male, and I have a lot of male friends as well as some, you know, friends that I've met in all different types of categories, whether it's school, whether it's in martial arts classes, whether it's at the gym. And one thing that I notice in common is that like even though men portray this like, oh, we're all tough and stuff like that, and we portray this like stoic look, like 95% to like 100% of them are in pain under it. And I
Really?
just don't think that like anybody sees it, and they think that, like we're just supposed to deal with all this stuff. But like if you talk to them on a personal level, and you're able to actually get what they're truly feeling, like there's not one that I've met, even the fighters that I've met that are supposed to be like stoic and stuff, they're all in pain. Like we're all in pain. So I think it's like important to kind of, bring awareness on that of like how, especially in this generation too, of like I feel like, there's just so much going on and just so much reason to be in pain, with everything
What
going
are
on.
some of
And,
the reasons? Tell me, what are some of the reasons men, as a collective group, find themselves in pain? What are some of the reasons in your estimation?
yeah. Um, I think just this generation, I think there's a lot of stuff and responsibilities to deal with that, used to be easy in the past in terms of maybe like just living in terms of money or whatever. Let's just use that for example. Like we're just seeing
Providing.
on the news, like providing, and it's not, obviously everybody's, not everybody's struggling, but a lot of people I know are struggling, especially like here in LA when everything is just so expensive. And, even just stepping into that provider role, of like not even just being able to provide for themselves. It's like we can't even like keep up in terms of like how bad inflation is coming, and just in terms of just this is just money, and stuff like that. And I
Mhm.
feel like, there's that sense of, weakness that if the man doesn't have money, then he doesn't feel like, you know, he is able to
Exist.
provide not only for himself, exist, and just, that's just one example. And it kind of just stems from there too. Just, we just have all these distractions in terms of like social media, everything like that. I think also not just men are distracted, but like, everybody's distracted in terms of like finding their passion, purpose. And I think, you know, again, not just men, but they're also maybe also struggling to find a sense of like purpose in life too, with all this stuff going on, and
Do you
that can
would
make them
believe
feel less than.
women? Do you believe that women or their partners, be they women or men, but do you believe that that other half of the equation of a man, do you think those who are in relationships, their counterpart actually understand what they're going through?
Um, I think if the man is like open enough to communicate that, which, a lot of men don't really communicate those issues, and, are kind of quiet about actually like communicating to that to maybe their partner or to, other women around them. But I think that maybe there might not be an understanding because the man is simply afraid to communicate that they're struggling. They don't want to lose their sense of weakness. So maybe they're just trying to hide and, you know, maybe wear nice clothes or drive a nice car or whatever, but in reality they're struggling inside. And I think that um but there's also men that also open up to their partners and be like, hey, and if their partner is understanding enough to be like, to support them through that, then that's great. But I also think that a lot of the time, the man isn't open to like actually communicating their actual struggles, and because maybe their partner might feel like that might make them look weak, or
Exactly.
so I think it's
Exactly. It's
just a
a
matter of
double-edged
just,
sword.
yeah, I think it's just a matter of just men just becoming more comfortable with opening up to maybe their partners or maybe to other women around them about their struggles, and seeing like, it's okay to struggle. Like, doesn't really necessarily mean weakness. Um,
What message would you give to women out there who need to support these men or their partners, whatever their role or gender is, how to support the male role of that relationship? What would your advice be?
right. So I think in terms of supporting, I think it's just about like understanding, number one, like, we're all struggling and it's not easy, but I think that they understand that, like, if they are in a relationship with the man, like, and their man is trying their hardest to like, be that, you know, be that strength in the relationship, and be that, um,
The head of the
you know, someone that they can look up to as well. And also the woman has to, also reciprocate that as well, in terms of like, being the support for him too when he's down too. And so I think it's like if they both kind of open up in terms of like their struggles and stuff like that, they can get to a point where like, we're both struggling, but let's both support each other. And it doesn't have to be like, oh, like, you support me, I support you, but like let's do this together. You know what I mean? I think you can come together like more so as a team, in terms of like,
Mhm.
judging each other for their struggles, or,
Absolutely.
um,
Well, let
but
me
it
ask you,
takes that level of communication.
sure. I mean, communication is everything, of course.
Yeah.
But I oftentimes, I've had a lot of counseling sessions over the years, and I remember one or two specifically where men were not only abused by the woman, but emasculated, denigrated, reduced to a lower level of human, if that, in the eyes of their partner. And the partner was unwilling to be viewed in the same lens that their male or their man was being seen and understood. What do you think is the problem with that? Why can't sometimes when people need to support someone, they have to put them down in order to support them, or put them in a place where they're lesser than they are? What do you think the phenomena behind that is, and what causes that? Can you share with your wisdom on that?
Yeah, I think maybe it has to do with like ego, or just always wanting to be right no matter what, even if you know it's wrong or whatever. It's just that sense of pride you get from being like, hey, like, I said this and that, or I did this and that, and I was right about it, even though it was wrong, and just maybe getting that sense of like pride. It could be a sense of revenge too. Maybe like,
Yes, that's true.
people want to see someone feel bad because maybe they're still stuck on something that happened in the past that they did to them. And I mean, there's so many different, you know, reasons of why someone would, you know, make
If
them
I
want
had
to
to
feel
put my
like that,
finger
less
on
than.
something,
And
you're right. There's a lag, so I apologize. California's a few hours back.
mhm.
I'm
Yeah,
traveling.
it's
So I
no,
apologize, but I want to say, sometimes people, I always say this, and I think they've even heard it on this podcast. People always want you to do better. They just don't want you to do better than them. And so when they're trying to support you, oftentimes they don't want their support to go beyond that of what they're willing to provide to make you better than them in that relationship or that business endeavor or that friendship. They're always looking to keep you in a place, not only so they can keep an eye on you, more importantly, so they can control how much benefit or how much detriment you bring to that relationship. It's a power struggle. And I tell people all the time, Dillon, that every single relationship you ever have in life, whether it's you and your banker, you and your wife, you and your husband, you and your best friend, you and your teacher, dog catcher, or whomever, every relationship on the planet is nothing but an exchange of powers. That's all it is. When you and when you love some woman so much that you're willing to exchange your powers with her and say, okay, you have the power to have me in your life and to be the provider, to be the strength, to be the head, to do all of it. You got me here. That's within the realm of your power. So I gave you the power to not only get me here, but to keep me here. I'm giving you the power to do your role. So we're exchanging powers. And I think what people lose, Dillon, is they lose the fact that no set of powers on the planet is 100%. And likewise, no set of powers on the planet is 50-50. Always going to be 59-41, 60-40, 30-70, 25-75. The relationship, no matter which it is that you have, will be a fluctuating balance. It'll always go back and forth, and it'll never be 50-50. And if people look for 50-50 in a relationship, I think that opens up the door for what I'm about to ask you next. What are the expectations of men in our today's society? Tell me, what are those expectations?
Mhm. Yeah, so I think we expect men to one be strong, not just physically but emotionally too as well. We expect them to be, you know, leaders. Um, People we expect them to be like inspiring, um,
Honorable,
innovative and honorable, loyal. Um,
intelligent. Oh,
yeah.
yeah.
So I
Uh,
mean, there's
Women want you to be great in bed. They want you to be great out of bed. I mean, it's it's so much expected of a man, and not all men are as secure as, let's say, you're portraying and I'm portraying now. I know what I can and cannot do on this planet, and I'm kind of good at a lot of things. I'm just not good at everything, but I'm kind of secure in that. You are
right,
seem like a very secure man in yourself, but who knows what's lurking behind your door? But
right.
all I've seen since I've known you is confidence and sincerity and straightforwardness. That's so attractive to women. It's so attractive to your significant other. What's happening with men today that they don't think they can meet the expectations?
I mean, at the end of the day, so I can speak from this because I didn't always start as this like, quote unquote confident person. I didn't start as this like, strong, quote unquote stoic person or whatever like that. Like I started from the complete opposite end of that. So I can just speak from my experience. When I was high school, I was probably like the most like, people liked me and stuff like that. But in terms of like myself, like I always felt like so unconfident. I always felt like I could never like hold a conversation. I was liked and I was, around a lot of people, but I just didn't feel that sense of like confidence within myself or sense of like purpose.
Mhm.
And Since I started like that from the bottom, I don't think like a lot of people are just like, we're talking about men here, like have that like belief in themselves that they can actually change and become that person. So it actually starts in, you know, for me, it started off with just getting into like, personal development. I started working out more and I started, um, caring about the way I looked. I started caring about the way I dressed. I started caring about like everything. I started caring about like having a passion in music and, just having all these goals and stuff. And I think that, learning about that stuff and then putting it into action and putting it into place and being like, I can become better. I can look better. I can dress better. I can speak better. I can learn more things. And I just don't think a lot of men right now in this generation, in terms of like, there's so many distractions. There's video games. You can watch YouTube all day. You can watch Netflix all day. You can basically just screw around all day. You can drink all day if you want. You can smoke. There's all these distractions that um, men are doing,
To take
in
away from
terms of
the
like not developing themselves.
psychological
Yeah.
and
And
personal
then
development, taking away from that.
exactly, it's
Mhm.
distracting from all that stuff. And it's like, they may say they want to become better, but then their actions aren't congruent with that. They may say they want to become this like successful person, but instead of going to the gym, they're playing video games like 8 hours a day. You know what I mean? There's all these things. And I think at the end of the day, it just starts with just believing in yourself first, that you can actually become better and do more. And I think that's what a lot of not just men, but just people are lacking in general. It's just that core belief that they
So
can
that
actually become
sincerity
better
in
and do
self,
something.
are you saying the
Yeah.
sincerity in self they're lacking? And if they had a little bit of discipline, they would be what? They would be, of course, bettering themselves at some level. Now,
I'm sorry, there was a lag.
I know I saw it. I was like, okay, do I
Yeah,
fill in or do I let you?
exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the internet lag. I think we're okay now. Yeah. I was like, okay, what
Yeah, it's a
happened?
little lag.
All right.
Yeah, you're back
Uh,
normal. Yeah.
but
Very
I
good.
think you hit
Yeah.
it right on the head. I think that people distract themselves because people, it's like a bomb, like an explosive. See, explosions always blow up and they always go in the what they call the points of least resistance. When a bomb blows up, it blows up omnidirectionally in every direction. But if it's sitting on the ground, it won't blow up as much on the ground as it blow up in the areas of least resistance with the air. And I think goals and activity in humans pretty much mirror that of an explosion. When it blows up, it blows to the easiest things to do. For instance,
Mhm.
you said watching television, playing video games, talking on the phone with friends instead of personal development, reading that book you need to read, or endeavoring to know something about something you have to apply at work or at school. I think it's easy for people to do that to themselves because of, I think it's technology. I think technology
Mhm.
has set humans back more than catapulted them forward insofar as the human psyche is concerned.
So,
What do you think about that?
yeah. Yeah. I mean, I was a big, I said like in high school too, I was a big, um, how I used to be before I became into this person that I am now. Like I was used to distract myself with just YouTube, technology, social media, all this stuff, and just even addicted to the internet, and still to this day, I'm still working on it, but I just think that's something that, I just grew up with just the internet all around, especially for the kids being born today. They're just, already from the day they were born, they already have like a tablet or a phone in their hand, and it's just like messing with any kind of ability to just be like have any sense of like concentration or ability to just be like present in the moment
Focus. Yeah.
and focus. Exactly, yeah. And that's
I
even
mean,
something I'm struggling with too.
I
So
remember as a kid, I mean, we knew all of the presidents. We knew every state. We knew geography, geology. We knew about rocks. We knew about the sun, and we knew everything. We knew all these things were common knowledge. And you can't ask people today common knowledge questions that you would think is common knowledge questions, and they fulfill that knowledge gap in any kind of way because they're, as you said, now they're inundated with other things that take away their focus. I think technology has been bad in that. What would you do different as a future father, as a role model, and even a
mhm.
mentor to people? What would you do different to help young people get through this problem with, of course, not being able to maintain focus.
Right. So before I even answer that question, like I pretty much worked with kids for like 4 or 5 years in the past couple of years, and I was working at this elementary school before COVID, and then I started working there again after COVID. And obviously, technology was very much prevalent, before COVID and as well. But just seeing that change of these kids before COVID, and then when they came back, in terms of like, all these kids had so much time to just be by themselves, like on their phones and everything, during COVID and stuff. And then when I came back to that school, these kids were just like a complete just train wreck in terms of just like how bad they were. The same exact kids, but these kids were bad and they had no attention span whatsoever. They couldn't focus or anything, and we really had to just ask any
Uh-huh.
teacher like before COVID and after COVID, like they'll say the same thing. These kids were really bad, and you could
There
just
was
see
no
the effect
reinforcement,
of
right? There was no daily
exactly,
reinforcement of the learning, and there was an absence of
exactly,
guidance. Kids want to be
exactly.
led. When adults tell kids to help in the decision-making process, I always think that's the dumbest thing that can possibly happen. Kids don't know. They shouldn't be expected to know because all decisions are those of the parents. Now, their opinions are important. Like, hey, do you want these blue shoes or these new sneakers? Or do you want, hey, how's things going in your science class? Do you need a slide rule or a calculator? Their children's opinions are very important, and you give a child a sense of ownership and a sense of focus and even a part of the equation when their opinion and their voice matters. But the ultimate decisions belong to the adults. Though that decision making within the conceptual or the actual framework of the decision making process, it has to be that the adults make the decisions that are best for the kids, not the kids make those decisions and in lieu of courage,
Yeah.
parental guidance,
Mhm.
and of course sharing information and educating those kids. So I agree with you. I think it was a menace to society, the COVID, when it came to our children. It was truly a menace to society. So what are you guys doing different to help those kids now and to catch them up? Have you made a big dent in that since COVID?
Right. So I mean, at first, so it was just trying to understand like what the hell was going on. Because like when we came back to that situation and just trying to teach those kids like the concept, trying to teach a kindergartner the concept of staying 6 feet away from their friends, like how do you do that? Like it
Yeah, you got a
was
point.
honestly some of the worst. It was just first of all, just like we were all so new to the situation. It was just like I just remember looking at my coworkers like, what do we do? Like it was like insane, and it took like a long time. I mean, those effects are always going to be with those kids, but we were just basically just trying to figure it out too. Like we had no idea what to do. We never been through this before, and it was just like every day was a battle in terms of like, so um it was just a mixture of just trying to figure out how to get these kids to like, interact with each other, but still trying to keep them distant, which was like almost impossible. I mean, we kind of just had to do what we had to do. And,
They wouldn't even have that
at the end of the
capacity to do
day,
that anyway. They wouldn't even have that capacity.
yeah,
So,
exactly.
your whole effort was uphill. But go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, exactly. And then, like you said, it comes down to the parents too, in terms of just like, how these parents were taking responsibility for these kids during these times too. And I feel like these parents just completely gave up and almost just let their children just like,
Run them up.
basically just run free, let their children control them basically. And it was just like you see it in different demographics around where I live too, in terms of like the parents as well too. And you can definitely tell like where the kids are better. Like these parents are a lot more, in control of their kids and a lot, better parents. And then you see these other, places where I've worked as well. And just you can tell like these parents, like even just who they are as people, you can tell how their kids are. And it's just like an exact reflection of who they are,
They
as
come
people,
in
as parents.
dumbfounded.
And
Yeah. So
and
you
yeah,
know, okay, go ahead. I don't want to speak
yeah,
for the parents
yeah,
that much, but some
yeah.
parents don't care. They could,
Hmm.
because oftentimes if people don't know something, instead of going to find out, what I've witnessed over the years is if people don't know, oftentimes they just make it up. And as they make it up, and they begin to condition themselves to believe that made up crap in their head, they begin to, of course, share that knowledge and share that experience with their children. And children are very impressionable. And especially young boys. Young boys are more impressionable. Everything to them is exciting. Like, wow, yeah, let's do it, because that's the nature of little boys. And imagine that with erroneous information or false flag operations in their own life of things that should or could happen, but that are not happening. And they're being fooled into these existences, or anyway, I can go on and on about. We can talk all day about this one. I want to ask you a couple more questions before we. There's a lot of questions coming out here in the from our guests, and I want to look at a couple of them here. I saw some come up in the thing, but I want to talk to you about a couple of things first. Tell us about. I know you're a music producer as well. What kind of music do you produce?
Yeah, so I pretty much produce I started producing, well, going back to how I started with music and stuff like that. Like I started, when I was in fourth grade, listening to a whole bunch of just rock and roll and stuff like that. And Guitar Hero was like my favorite video game, and I was obsessed with that game, and to the point where my parents just bought me a real guitar, and I started playing with it. I was obsessed with just rock and roll, like Guns N' Roses, Metallica, AC/DC, Rush, like all those
Okay.
bands. I wanted to like know all those, guitar solos and everything. Started playing, and as I got older and stuff, I was, being a kid, I didn't really want to practice that much or anything like that. So I put the guitar away. But then high school came around, and I started picking up music again, and I started getting, wanting to start producing like hip hop music, rap beats, and stuff like that. And one of my friends, one of my best friends today, like we actually started like a music duo in high school, and everybody kind of knew us for our music and stuff, and we started like DJing parties and stuff, and that's how I kind of got into like the more you know popular kid scene and stuff, was through my music. I wasn't like a popular kid or anything like that, but my friend, he introduced me to that because he was a popular kid, and I was like, why is he even talking to me? Like, I don't even know why he would even talk to me. But he was like, yo, just come over to my house and let's like do some stuff. And then from there we started DJing together and doing all these things, and making like hip hop music together. R&B music was big. I love R&B,
Oh,
and
oh,
it kind of just went from there. And
I like something
still
about all
producing like,
music. I love something. I
yeah,
not to say I love something about all music. I really love music.
yeah,
This is
uh-huh.
exciting.
So yeah, I've
So,
been,
is it a something you think you can make a career of?
of course, yeah. I think there's opportunity in everything, and I especially think that with technology and just online and everything, like everything is just all online. There are so many producer friends that I've met, and artists that I still don't even I've not even met in person yet. Um, um, and I'm been meeting all these people through like discords and stuff like that, and there's like a whole bunch of opportunities to just send samples and stuff where like higher end producers will pick up, and then they'll use your work, and then next thing you know, you get a placement, and it's just about like continuously sending work and sending work to just as many different places across the internet as you can, and just hopefully somebody will pick it up. And next thing you know, like you have a placement. There's so many like producers and stories that just like they wake up and they're like, oh, like this huge rap artist just used your sample. Like they didn't even know where. Like it's very collaborative too. I
Yeah,
think yeah. So it's just you never know.
you're waiting
Someone's
on your
always just
big
gonna be
break in
sending stuff
LA.
and something. Yeah. So even if I don't really care. Even if I don't have a big break or whatever, I'm just like I still can't stop doing music. It's not necessarily about just getting that
I
break, but
hope you
I
get a
just
break.
can't.
I hope
So
you, if anybody
yeah.
deserves a break, is you. Of course, I mean, you got the right
Thanks,
temperament,
man.
personality, and
Thanks.
love for what you do. I'm going to ask you a
Thanks,
few
man.
questions from my audience because this hour goes quickly, doesn't it? It's already, we're 40 minutes in, believe it
Yeah.
or not.
No,
So
that's
I
crazy.
want to
Yeah.
ask a few questions and see what your answer are. What would you recommend to a man, our viewer asked, whom is stuck between knowing what to do and doing what they can to become more confident in themselves? What do men have to do, or young men becoming men have to do to become more confident in themselves? What do you think some of the
Okay.
areas that you
So I used to struggle with this problem too. So I used to be like, oh, like I would like look up all this stuff like on the internet. Obviously, the first thing I would do is just become like type into Google like how to become more confident, right? And there's like a whole bunch of things that you can do to become more confident, right?
Mhm.
And I remember, and just reading books or whatever, was what I was doing as well, and just not just for confidence, but it's just overall personal development, because I think just overall personal development and bettering yourself is what's going to breed confidence. There's not just one way to become confident. It's doing something that you're doing within yourself, and that's going to bring out the confidence within you. And confidence is learned as well, so it's not you can develop it in any way. But I think the most important thing is that not just reading books on how to become better, not just like learning all these like, or watching TED Talks and stuff like that, or whatever you want to do to like better yourself, but it's actually about like applying those things, and not just like having it
Right.
in your notes, but actually applying it to your life. And then
Working on those
you gain
things.
confidence. Exactly. And you gain confidence through like experience.
Right.
And I think that's for me, there's not one way to just breed it, but you actually have to go out and do those things and put yourself in uncomfortable positions if you want to become confident with like,
Say that
you
again.
know,
Uncomfortable positions. You need to
exactly. You have to
repeat.
put yourself, you
Yeah.
can't just be like, you can't just like, if you want to lift weights and you want to be confident about your body, you can't just like walk on the treadmill for like 5 minutes. You got to like lift some heavy weights. You got to like,
Get
if
into
you
it.
want to become a better basketball player or whatever it is, you got to like, sweat, and you got to grind. And I think, just that feeling of after a workout, after a hard workout, it's like I already feel more confident after that, because I know I put myself through an uncomfortable situation. And then you keep doing that repetition after repetition, and it's whatever it is. So you got to put yourself and actually apply those things. Don't just learn, but actually apply it to yourself and become your own teacher, like through experience, whatever it is. And I think that's ultimately what breeds it. And just being able to wake up, like if you can look at yourself in the mirror and wake up every single day and look at yourself in the mirror and be like, I'm doing whatever I need to be doing in this moment to like bettering myself. And you can fully say that and look at yourself with confidence in the mirror. And if there's any ounce of like, oh, I'm not doing what I'm supposed to be doing, or I could be trying harder. If there's any ounce of that, then you need to like, do more and try harder, because if you have those doubts within yourself, that's what's stopping you from becoming confident. It's just
Every
you
single
knowing
time.
that, yeah,
Every time.
it's
I'm
just you
asking,
knowing that like you're doing all this stuff.
yeah, I know.
Yeah.
You know what you're doing, and you can
Hmm.
measure yourself. What people don't
Hmm.
normally have is a set of metrics that they can use
Yeah.
in order to benchmark themselves. And once I think, just emulate, if people are trying to emulate you, for instance, and you become their mentor, I think one of the first things we need to give kids, especially young kids, and even some men who struggle with their strengths, and that is a set of metrics of this is what it's supposed to look like. This is supposedly the outcome that you should be working towards. I think a lot of people don't have that because it's very skewed based,
Yeah.
especially these last few generations. It's very skewed on what
Yeah.
a man actually, what constitutes a man, what constitutes maturity, what constitutes independence. All of these
Hmm.
different topics and areas of a person's life and culture have changed drastically
Hmm.
over the past 5 or 6 decades. So I'm gonna ask you, that's another long conversation, but I'm gonna ask you another question the audience
Yeah.
came to. What do you find is the most critical aspect of how parents raise their children to develop themselves as stronger men and women? Uh, what do you think parents need to show their children more than anything else? Is it what?
I think with just being in the education system myself and just being around so many kids, I think it's just about kids learn so much through the actions of their parents. It's not necessarily like, trying to tell your kid to do this, this, and that, this is right, but just be an example for your kid. Like at the end of the day, you know what I mean? Like your
Mhm.
kids learn so much through your actions, how you talk, how the man talks to his wife, or how the wife talks to the husband. Those kids, they pick up so many subtle behaviors and just learn just by watching you. And you can teach your kids so much by just being an example. And that's how I tried to be through when I was working with the kids myself, and just being that role model that they could look up to. You know what I mean? Like watching what I say, watching how I act, how I carry myself as well, because then they start to like pick up your actions and stuff like that. And it's like there's so much you can tell your kid, but if you're not actually embodying what you're telling your kid, and a
Yeah.
lot of parents are so hypocritical, you know what I mean? They tell their kid one thing and then they act another way. They say, "Oh, don't say that bad word," and then when they're fighting with the spouses are fighting with each other, they're cussing at each other, but then they're telling their kids. So it's like, how do you expect your kid to be the person that you want them to be if you're not even following it themselves? You know what I mean? You're not
Yeah.
even being that example. It's just, be a good mirror, and
Well, kids
it's one
are
of the most
sponges.
simple things.
Kids are sponges, and they will
Mhm.
pick up on anything adults do around them, and they'll repeat it, and they'll play it out as if it's normal. And I think that's the biggest problem. Parents are normalizing this ill behavior with their children, and they wonder why their kids get in trouble. I just watched an article, a video online today where the kid Brendan Deppa, who beat up the teacher viciously, like he was 16 years old, big black kid, about, they said 6'4", 270 pounds, beat the teacher up for a something to do with a Nintendo Switch. She wanted to take it from him in class. But what they're probably not looking at are the mitigating and the extenuating circumstances. This kid may be 16 years old, but he looked like he was the nicest kid. When you look at his face, you're like, this is some lovable teddy bear, this kid. But he's huge. And if the response in his household is to beat each other up and to pound on each other until you get what you want out of them, then that's what that child is going to do. But this kid is facing 30 years to life for or 30 years incarceration for this beating, and it was a horrific. And the kid should be punished, but I think 30 years is ridiculous. And but we can talk about that another time. But I think that's
Oh yeah.
ridiculous. But I think he should be punished, absolutely. But he's still a kid.
Right.
And if the
Right.
influences in his environment, and his parents, and his school suggest that that he that he that he be violent, then he'll be violent. And that's what they need to look at. And I think that norm therapy within the school is actually needed to help these teachers understand how to talk to kids, but more importantly, how kids need to react to adults, because kids mainly react. They don't respond. They react to the stimulus they're given, or the knowledge, or the circumstance that's provided. But we'll definitely get into that. I'm gonna have you on the show again. But I want to go back to there was one more thing that was brought up in this conversation, but I can't. Oh, my notes is at the bottom. The thing went all the way up. But I wanted to ask you about just hold on one second, give me 1 second. Yeah, there it is. Um, what do you find yourself in 5 years uh, with norm therapy? If with where we're going with norm therapy, what do you see yourself with our organization in 5 years? Because we're trying to expand around the world. We're raising money for that now.
Right.
Uh,
Right.
and on the for-profit side, not the nonprofit side, but on the for-profit side. And we want to build that out so we can continue to provide this undergirding to the nonprofit. Do you see norm therapy as something you think would be useful to society and that you would want to be a part of, without this being a job interview, of course?
Right. Of course. Yeah. Oh yeah. Of course. I mean, if these sessions keep going up and it keeps hitting YouTube and more people keep finding out about it, I think this is going to be something. I mean, me personally, like I've never heard anything like this before I joined it, and just seeing like how the ideas that you have for schools for everything in terms of just expanding out and having norm therapy and just different institutions and stuff like that. I think this could be like, and it will be like extremely huge. And I think that there's just so many people that would just need just a place to just speak and just talk about, especially when it comes to abuse, and more and more males, and actually teaching that it's okay for males to actually open up about it too, and like speak to somebody about it too. I think just overall, just spreading it is going to make this huge, especially. And I think that it's really, really going to be in a good place in terms of, because people need help. Like this is one of the main things people need right now is just help and somebody to speak to. And it's like I know AI is messing up with all these other companies in terms of technology and stuff, but it's just something that AI can't replace. You know what I mean? And this is something
That
that's going to be lasting. You know?
that human touch, that tactile
Yeah.
communication, AI could never touch. And I think that's
exactly.
the thing that people need to remain vigilant. AI is good and it's very useful. It has its place and it is not going away. But there's a human element to everything. If you rely on AI for all your answers, if you rely on that rather dry community of knowledge, then you're going to miss out on a lot of vicarious living through events and experiences and other people. One more thing. What is your future goal for counseling?
For counseling is just to, I guess, just fulfill my purpose of just like wanting to help people. And I think that I just have this natural ability to kind of just speak with people and just understand people, I think.
Mhm.
And I want to be able to like use that and figure out how I can to best utilize that. And um, I think it's just about, helping people, and then also like learning how to like expand my skills within that range too as well. And I think that I have a lot of experience with kids and stuff, and I don't know if I'm going to be more catered towards the younger community, towards the youth, the teens. Maybe like I like to work with maybe like teenagers and stuff like that. I don't know, maybe like young people like that, because I feel like I connect with them. I can just be able to put myself in that position as well. And
Mhm.
um, I think I cater a lot towards the youth. I think I can help the youth a lot in terms of just guiding them, directing them, and
Well, we'll be coming out
yeah.
in 2024 with a norm therapy for police and norm therapy for kids, where we teach
Mhm.
police officers around the world how to deal with the public on such a level that they're able to de-escalate as well as offer solutions and alternative opportunities for people to not be put in jail or beaten with a baton or arrested when they go out on a, let's say, a domestic violence call or a potential child abuse case. We want to make sure that the police are well armed with the knowledge. Because what is a police officer? It's a person that is basically a community social worker without the skills. They have the training to be police, but they don't have the skills to deal with humans on a level where they can de-escalate instead of pull out their weapon or say things like "sir, sir, sir," or not being able. Because a lot of times when you're watching these vest videos of these policemen killing people uh, and using their power as a tool and a weapon to actually hurt humans. A lot of times it could have been de-escalated or it could have been talked through if they knew what triggers and what signs to look for in order to de-escalate and move forward. So there's a lot of it. And also norm therapy for PTSD, I think is going to be very big. People want to know how to overcome that traumatic shock. They really do. And how to deal with it, cope with it, understand it, and then not only, and oftentimes they're medicated, but medication is nothing to me, in my personal opinion, it's but it's treating the symptom, if you will. It's calming the symptom instead of removing that symptom. And it isn't easy. I'm not saying psychologists and psychiatrists are not doing their job, but I think there's a better way in norm therapy. And we've tested it, and we're working with uh, military people in the past now who have suffered PTSD and other things, much more germane to today's world. And we're finding some excellent results in that area. But anyway, I love this conversation. Um,
Yeah.
Now, healing past traumas. Do you think we go a long way in our training and our efforts to help people heal from their past traumas? What do you think our impact as norm therapists are on that area?
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's something that you mentioned really well in terms of not just like healing the symptoms, but actually getting to the root of the problem. And I think that's what, is so different in terms of like healing past traumas. It's really, really, really getting to the, like we talked about, the uncomfortable part of it. And that's the
Yes.
part that nobody wants to deal with, you know what I mean? But I think for us, we attack that in a way where, it's going to be uncomfortable in the beginning, but we've seen so many with time and time again with so many different victims and survivors of like how they were able to help them work through that get through that uncomfortable place and then come out of it, but you have to go to that core, that root of that, that those issues and
Maybe I
stuff.
should say
And
a disclaimer
yeah,
too, just in case. The disclaimer is no one can cure anybody of any of that.
right,
First of all,
right,
that's not our job as norm therapists to cure anyone. Nor is it the
right,
job of the psychiatrist, the psychologist, or the social worker. They're not there to cure, but they are there to help people through whatever they're going through. And ours as norm therapy, norm therapists, is not to cure, but to provide you the tools and the education and the counseling you need in order to help yourself improve. I think that is the greatest component that we actually have in our arsenal, the ability to help people help themselves. And that's what most people don't know. Because if they knew, they would be doing it already. Since they're not doing it, it pretty much surmises that they don't know. So I think you and I are both right on the head with that. And I like that you understand that. Do you ride bicycles?
not consistently. I mean, I used to love riding bikes and stuff like that, but I mean, I don't
Um,
consistently ride. But
because when you're on a bike, and just in my head, I'm thinking this is how life is operating for a lot of people now. Some people who know how to ride a bicycle treat that bicycle in such a manner that they know what they can do with it. We can go on bike paths. We can go 20 miles around the neighborhood. We can, get the breeze and go under the shade and ride along with the sun and weave in and out of traffic because you're riding a bicycle. But those who have a motorbike or a motorcycle, they think differently. They think keeping up with traffic, obeying the lights and obeying the laws, watching out for the car, not getting into someone's blind spot. They're thinking a lot of other things because what's happening is their adventure on that cycle, that motorcycle, is different, but the same as a bicycle. It's along the same path, but a whole entirely higher and better use for getting around. And then those people who are in the cars, life graduates like that for people as when they finally graduate into a car and maybe later a 18-wheeler, and then after that, maybe they're driving a tank in the military. But whatever that progression is of growth, every single step that you're on actually complements and supports the next step. I think people are missing that in life today, where it used to be the entire community had like this staged understanding of what youth would be going through. Okay, you go out in the morning and you play with your friends in the summertime, of course, or you go to school, you come back from school, you change your school clothes and go back out and finish your homework and go back out and hang out with your friends, and then you come back in before the lights, and then you eat your dinner and you take a shower and then you go to bed. That was just a well-established understanding. That is no longer the case. I've seen kids in the street with their parents at midnight, out just walking around, talking, having fun. I've seen children, not have a set schedule for eating, not having a set schedule for rest, not having a set schedule for doing your homework or any organization. Do you think organization plays a big part? And then I'm going to have to close this out if you don't. But I want to know, what do you think about the educational component and that stair-stepped, tiered kind of growth they used to have that's no longer existent? How do you think that's affecting us? And then I'm going to close out on that.
yeah, I think especially with kids and stuff like that, in education, I think that we are kind of lacking that missing piece of like structure and stuff like that. And I think that we have to have, it's okay to kind of go away from structure, but at least have that kind of core, those basic things in terms of like eating, in terms of schedule, and you have to have those kind of core things in place in order for any kind of growth to take place. And yeah, it'd be really nice to be was able to have that more, and especially in the system. And yeah, because I feel like in a sense we've kind of lost control,
Yes,
in
we
terms
have.
of like structure. And
Dillon Tecson,
yeah.
it was wonderful having you on the show today. You're
Yeah,
an amazing character. I like your personality, and you're going to do some big things in life because you have the right attitude. You're all about, I think you get more out of helping people than they get out of it. I think you get more out of it. And that's a good thing to exude. It really is. And I'm really proud of you. And thank you for being the
thank you,
first
man.
graduate and undergraduate and male of our norm therapist course. And that's amazing. And I'm very proud of you, and I'll always hold that in very high esteem. I have to read something real quick, and I'll be closing out. If you've enjoyed and got something out of today's session, please show your support by sharing this video, subscribing to our channel, making a comment, and of course, liking it. That would be great to build the traction up so we can get some people to take a look at what we're doing and take us a little bit more seriously so we can do more work. Please go to goarrow.org and normtherapy.com. Explore our opportunities and seek help for yourself or for someone needing our services. If you're interested in applying to participate in our live sessions, please contact us, and we'll give you an email here shortly. If you're interested in becoming a norm therapist or taking victim and survivor sessions, we're there for you as well. So just reach out to us at contact@normtherapy.com, and someone will come back to you, or you can call one of our numbers on the website, and someone will return your call if no one picks up. Thank you for joining us, and we look forward to seeing you on Tuesday, April 30th at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, where I'll be interviewing Nicole Bialco. She's a stalking survivor, a storyteller, and a stalking-aware advocate. Now, that should be interesting. Dillon, I like you. We got to talk again soon. It was always good to see you around. I know you stick with the company. You're still with us and doing a lot of good work over at the org. I really appreciate it. Anything you want to close us out with?
No, thank you we definitely have to talk this. I feel like there's a whole bunch more that we got to get into and stuff, which I'm actually really excited to in the future. So definitely have me back on again. It was
Without
a pleasure.
the stretch of the imagination, of course, that will happen. Thank you, Dillon. It was a pleasure having you here today, and I look forward to seeing you in the future. Thank you, everyone, for watching, and we'll talk soon. I'm going to close this out. Thank you, brother.
See you later, man. Take care.